If you're just starting out doing art fairs, you might find the whole thing a little bit daunting, especially when you're considering how much it costs to do these things. I mean, not only do you have to buy your art booth setup, which can be very expensive in some cases, but you also have to pay for booth fees, your hotels, gas, and even labor. And to really dig into answering the question of how to make a profit at art fairs, I want to show you what I made, the exact costs, everything I sold, and what I profited from my last art fair. And I chose this one in particular because I made an average level of sales. The show is Autumn Festival in Omaha, Nebraska. It took place in the very beginning of November, and this is not a fine art fair. It is a craft show, but it's an upper end craft show, so there are higher end items there, and there are a lot of artists who sell their work at the show. And this show is ranked in the top 200 from Sunshine Artist magazine. That's actually how I found the show. I've been doing it for years, and it's always been one of my better shows of the year, especially when it comes to craft fairs. So now for the costs. My booth fee was $600, which is right in line for what booth fees often cost this time of year, especially at the better shows. My hotel was $525. Now I could have gotten a hotel for around $415 if I was willing to stay in something really low quality, but I like to stay in a hotel that's a little bit better because I want something clean and I want to be comfortable for the time that I'm there. Because you're working so hard during the day, you want to be able to go back to your hotel, just relax and not feel like you're in something really disgusting or in an area of town that is not very desirable, something where you might get robbed or things like that. And so I like to spring for a little bit better hotel, but I didn't always do that. I used to need to really save money when I was first starting out, and I would stay at the very cheapest thing that I could find. But one money saving tip here for hotels: always get a room with a microwave and a refrigerator. If you do this, then you can bring soup with you or raviolis if you can eat that kind of thing, anything that's shelf stable to be able to eat while you're staying at the shows, because this way you can save so much money, you're not having to eat out. Now I do spring for a couple of meals out during the show. I find that it just helps raise up the morale of me and the person who's helping me work at the show, but I don't pay for meals out every time, because if you do that, you're gonna waste so much money. I mean, at this show that I just did, they had a single slice of pizza costing $9 if you were to eat at the show. I'm sorry, but I am not paying $9 for a slice of pizza. I'm gonna take a tuna packet or like a pre-made tuna meal that I can get for like $1 to $3 at Walmart. I'm gonna take that with me to eat for lunch at the shows because I'd rather save the money. Next cost is labor. I pay Greg $500 to help me do the shows. He drives us there to and from the show, he sets up the booth, and then he also helps me do the checkout during the show, at least some part of the show, and he covers the booth as my booth sitter while I go to the restroom and take a lunch break. I think this is a really good thing to do. If you want to have reliable help, you need to pay for it. You can't expect family members to constantly volunteer for you. They might, but eventually they're going to get sick of it. And other people, they have their own full-time jobs to do. And so if you're not paying them, they're not likely going to continuously take time out of their schedule to help you. But the important thing about having a helper that I figured out is that I need to be the one doing the sales. If I have someone helping me and they're trying to do the sales and I'm doing the checkout, for example, I will not make near the amount of money as if I'm the one who's greeting the customers, who's trying to find the prints for the customers when they're looking for something, and who's trying to close each sale. And maybe this is because customers really like to meet the artist. They want to interact with the artist, and that's why they're going to shop at these in-person events. It also could be that I've perfected my sales skills, and so it's hard to tell, but one thing that I have noticed is that I have to be the one who's out there doing the sales. And if I ever leave the show, let's say I have to go, I'm not feeling well, and I need to set out for a couple of hours, I will hardly sell anything until I get back into that show. The last few costs are gas because the show is in Omaha, I live in Wichita, and so round trip it was about $85. I also had to pay for a pet sitter. I have cats who have separation anxiety and they need human interaction every day while I'm gone. So I paid $68 for the pet sitter. There's also food costs. Mine were $50 because I paid for Greg and I to go out to 2 meals while we were on the road, but we brought most of our food with us that were just regular grocery items that we would be eating anyway. This brings the total to $1,828. Now this does not include cost of goods sold or square fees, but we're gonna get to those here in a minute. First, I wanna show you exactly what I made at the show. We're gonna look at my Square dashboard so that you can see all the details, the exact products I sold and everything. So the first day of the show, I made $847. Second day, $1,138. Third day, $2,424. Fourth day, $882. This brings the total gross sales to $5,293.27. I would like to say that these first 2 days of the show, sales were down a little bit because it was right after the election and people were really bummed out about the election results. And so I think that they weren't as interested in shopping as they normally are. Now, coming down here, we're going to see the fees. To process credit cards, it cost me $133.21. Now here you can see my item sales, and this is what is going to be really revealing over what I actually sold at the show. My small prints, these are my 8x10 size prints. I made $4,011 selling small prints. I also sold $1,095 worth of canvas prints. And my large prints, this is my 16x20 size, were $182.50. This custom amount was a shipping cost. I charged a customer because they wanted a print that I did not have in stock, and so I told them that if they wanted me to ship it to them, I could do that, but they would have to pay for the shipping. You can see it down here. There's even a breakdown for the sizes of canvas prints. So the 12x15 size, I sold 9 of them. My 16x20 size, I only sold 1. And the custom was 4. These were larger pieces that I actually had to lower my price on and make deals on at the show so that I could sell them, because I wasn't selling as much as I should have been during those first couple days of the show. So I wheeled and dealed with people a little bit. But I want you to notice the 12x15 size, I also have 11x14 sizes pieces in this as well, but this smaller size I sell them for $55 a piece. The 16x20s I sell for $100. You can see the difference here. People always want the cheaper ones. They want to save money. They don't care if it's bigger or better or anything. They want to save money. But there are a few people, these larger ones, I usually charge $199 for a 24x30 piece. So people often are willing to spring for those, but there's only a few. And above all, the biggest thing I sell are my small 8x10 size prints. I sold 223 8x10 size prints at this event. So all of that considered, my cost of goods sold ended up being $671. The square fees, like I said before, were $133. So that makes the total cost for the show $2632. And my net profit was $2661. So this is pretty good, an average show. And one of the things that I want to emphasize here is that the reason I was able to make this much profit is that my cost of goods sold is low. And that's because I have products that I'm selling, the art prints, that I'm making an extremely good profit margin on. What I like to do is always have something in my booth that I'm 10 timesing my money more if I can on that particular item. And for me, the small art prints, they cost me $1.35 to make. They're super affordable, but they're also really high quality and beautiful, and customers love them. And so it is a perfect thing. I can charge $17.99 for them at the event. I'm making more than 10 times my investment on that product. And what I try to do is channel everybody into my booth to buy that product because my profit margin is so good. And this $1.35 includes the printing, the packaging, everything. It even includes the labor cost because I don't bag all of those prints myself. I mean, I would have tendinitis even worse if I do that. What I do is I have my workers, the ones who I hire from the college who are in the art department, who are looking for part-time jobs, they do the bagging of all of my prints. It doesn't take much skill to bag prints, it's just a lot of repetitive work, but I pay them $12 an hour and they can bag a lot of prints. And so that's why I think that it's always good if you have something that's a repetitive thing that you don't really need to do. If you can hire it out, that is the best thing to do because you're going to make a lot more money in the long run doing that. Instead of spending time bagging prints, I can be painting more original paintings. But the idea here that's really important is that you want to have products in your booth that you have a really good profit margin on. You don't want to have everything that's like just only doubling your money. Let's say you are selling only canvas prints, and you're paying $50 for them and you're trying to sell them for $100. That's not going to leave much room for you to make a profit. So you want to kind of think about ahead of time, like what do customers really want? Then what can I make where I can make a 10 times or more profit? then how do these two things meet? Because if you can find the thing that the customers really want and you can make it for cheap but sell it for still a reasonable price, but where you can make a good profit margin, that's the formula for a really good art business that's going to stand the test of time. It's also a good idea to have an upsell. You can see here on my print bin, what I do is I always give everyone, if they buy 3 prints, they get a 4th print for free. This helps me get my average order total up, because if people will buy more per order, then you have to make fewer sales. Or at least if you're selling to the same amount of customers, you can maximize the amount of money that you're going to make off of each person that walks in your booth. And I know when I started doing this, when I started upselling people with a product that they want, not upselling them with something that they don't want, but something that they really, really do want. And when they're looking through my print bin, they love to see all the prints in there. And there are so many different ones. I've painted 300 animals. And so inevitably they're going to see several that they want. And if I'm like, if you buy 3, you get a 4th one free, it pushes them over the edge because they're already on the fence about buying several anyway. So this is a good way to have an upsell. So if you have a large collection of prints, always give a little freebie to get them to buy one more, especially if your print cost is down to the $1.35 range. It's also crucial to be able to have a match between what you're selling and the audience who is at the show to potentially buy your work. Because if the people who are going to the show aren't interested in the type of work that you are selling, then you could go there, spend all that money on your booth fee, and even have a good product that has a nice profit margin, have your upsells, all the things you need. But you could go there, and if the customers aren't interested in it, then you're not going to sell anything. And so one thing to do is figure out who your target audience is. And if you want help doing that, I have a video, you can watch it here. It gives you tips on exactly how to do that. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.